Now, I've gone on record in the past saying that I like Steve Cortez. Obviously, he was on the winning side, so, you know, it is what it is. But out of all the Trump surrogates, I believe that his comments and thoughts were, for the most part, the most reasonable. Here's an interview that he's doing with MSNBC regarding the election results. And honestly, I really am going to want to stay away, and I am going to stay away from this until all the numbers are in. And there's a reason why I'm going to stay away from it, which I will speak on once it hits that point in this video.
And for more on the role of Latino voters in this election, let's bring in Steve Cortez. He's a Republican strategist and was a member of Trump's National Hispanic Advisory Council. Steve, you just heard that interview. Is Donald Trump going to deport the Dreamers? Should they worry?
No, I don't believe he's going to at all. And as you don't have to rely on my opinion. He told us as much. And so there's a lot of fear-mongering out there. And by the way, I'm very empathetic that this group is worried because these people, most people who came here illegally are adults who did so knowingly. They broke our laws. These Dreamers, most of them were brought as young children. They did not have a choice. So I'm very empathetic to their plight, particularly for those who have been here for a very long time and lived essentially American lives. But I would tell them this, if they take an honest look at what he said, not the way the media reported it, what he said on the campaign trail is we're going to do two things immediately upon taking office. We're going to secure the border, which is something that hasn't been done in decades under Republicans and Democrats. The second thing is we are going to get dangerous people out of here immediately, people who don't belong here. So if you are in...
Okay, that's not exactly what he said, okay? He originally said that he was going to get rid of 11 million illegal residents. That's what he said, words out of his own mouth. I substituted residents for aliens, okay? He did modify it, no ifs, ands, or buts. He modified it by saying that they were going to first get rid of the criminal element of the illegal residents, then look at everybody else, which is open to huge interpretation, okay? It could be that there's going to be empathy for everybody else, all the way to we're going to get rid of everybody else. We're just getting rid of the criminals first. There's a wide range there. So Steve spun that a little bit, and Betty is going to catch him on it.
Law-abiding student, a hard-working young man or woman, you have nothing to worry about. We are not coming to knock on your door.
That is not true. They may be coming to knock on your door, just not immediately.
And said, though, we're going to address the rest of the community and the rest of the issue after that. So if you are a law-abiding but not legal immigrant here to the United States, we're going to have a conversation and we're going to come up with sensible policies.
That's a big question mark. That's still a big question. We're going to address it after that. It still leaves it pretty open, right?
Well, sure, it's open, but my strong guess and certainly my advice to him during the campaign.
Okay, so now he's guessing, and now it's his advice. He doesn't know. Okay, he doesn't know. Nobody knows. Okay, I don't even think Donald Trump knows because he flip-flops back and forth between getting rid of everybody and looking at the legal people. And even looking at legal people is not really saying anything. But Steve doesn't know. And for him to say that there's nothing to worry about, that's not a good statement to make, or at least an accurate one.
And if he asks me, my advice to him as president will be that those who have been here for a very long time and who have been contributors to our society and not been a drain on us in any way or engaged in criminal activity, that those people should be given some sort of regular status, not citizenship. My advice to him was and will be that they should be allowed to stay and have status, which is where they reside right now. But we can't reward citizenship upon those who broke our clear immigration laws, even if they did so as a child and didn't have a choice.
Okay, Steve, so you are for taxation without representation. Where did I hear that one before? Oh, the American Revolution. Up.
Steve, a lot of people were predicting record Latino turnout this year, but it looks like it's going to be really on par with previous years. So how do you explain that, and are you surprised by it?
Okay, and this is why I want to stay away from these numbers for a couple of months until all the states actually download their voting results. Okay, when they download that information, okay, it lets them know, not necessarily drilled down to by name, okay, but it lets them know by group how everybody voted. Now, if you look at these numbers here, okay, you'll see that the accurate numbers for Latino voters was 7.4% in 2008. In 2012, it rose a little, 8.4%. 2016, it rose again, 11%. Okay. But they absolutely do not know about the 2016 numbers. Why do I say that? Well, at least the state of California has not provided them with the actual breakdown of their voters. They have the overall numbers. They know, the numbers of who voted for who, but their state files have not been downloaded. So the Latin voter turnout could be even higher, or it could be lower. Okay, they need to look at all of the states with all of their particular breakdowns. Now, I want to let Steve speak to his quote-unquote increased turnout by Latino voters for Donald Trump, and then I'm going to dispute that.
Frankly, I'm surprised. I do so many news shows every day for the last 8 months on behalf of Donald Trump that I think I was even a bit convinced, even as a Latino Trump supporter, a bit convinced that there was going to be this Latin surge because Trump had so riled them up. And by the way, I never believed that he did, but the narrative was out there, the theme.
Yeah, well, you might not have believed that he did, but when he called all the Mexicans coming across the border criminals and rapists, I think out of his own mouth, that, and if I were a Mexican, I think that might have riled me up.
Fighting that theme for 8 months during the campaign, that he was a racist, that he didn't like Mexican.
He is a racist, and I'm black. He's a racist. He's a racist.
Of course, I don't think any of that's true, but I'm very heartened by the data that we've seen since Election Day. Number one, we didn't see a giant surge in turnout. But number two, more importantly, we massively outperformed expectations. We were polling in the teens in terms of Latino support by most credible polls into the election. We doubled that. We got almost 30% of the Latino vote. Now, I don't want to have a parade over 30%. I want to get to majority at some point. But still, the fact is we outperformed Mitt Romney. So Latinos came out and said, you know what? I'm not buying this media narrative, this Democratic narrative that he's a racist. And you know what I do know personally is that my life isn't getting better, particularly economically. I think Latinos want economic growth, most of all when it comes to politics. And thankfully, a healthy portion of them gave their trust to Donald Trump. And if we deliver on that in this administration, which I think we will, economic growth, then I think that Latino number can surge.
Steve.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that 100 million people voted. They know the total number of people that voted. They have approximately 2 million votes that needed to be broken down in California. Let me go out on a limb and say the majority of the California votes were not for Donald Trump. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. So that would mean that there's the potential that the majority of the Latino vote in California didn't go for Trump. That would theoretically reduce that 29% down to as low as 26%, 25%. That's still a high number, don't get me wrong, okay? And if I want to be conservative, I would say that the number would come down to the historical numbers of 27%. But I kind of do think that that Latino vote in California is going to be more against Trump than more than likely any place else, because the greatest effect on his policies will more than likely be felt by Latinos in California. So conservatively, I think that number is not 29. I think it's down to at least the historical number of 27, and more than likely it could drop that number down to 25, which would mean that he did not outperform Mitt Romney. All right, and just my opinion, and again, I don't have a dog in the fight, okay? But I honestly believe that we need to wait 3 or 4 months when all of the numbers are compiled, because right now they're guessing and they're using exit poll data, and that's not going to be accurate. And if California hasn't been done, more than likely Arizona hasn't been done either, and possibly New Mexico and Texas. So if they are operating strictly on exit poll data, these numbers could change dramatically.
Let me get your response to this. There has been some anecdotal evidence of a rise in anti-Latino harassment and bullying since the election. Do you worry about that becoming the norm?
You know, I worry about ugliness from all sides. I live in Chicago, and, you know, a white man was beaten viciously on video by some black people who claimed that he voted for Trump. I don't even know if he did. I'm sure there have been some legitimate incidents.
I saw that story, and that's not true. The beating by black men part is not true. It is true that a stupid person was walking through the wrong quote-unquote area in Chicago and was alone, was dumb enough to start yelling Trump, Trump, Trump in front of a bunch of black people. They did chase him across a bridge, okay? And fortunately for him, because again, if they had caught him, I have no doubt that they would have inflicted serious harm on him. But fortunately for him, after he ran across that bridge, he encountered law enforcement that protected him. So no, Steve, that you just told a lie. They did not beat that guy. They chased him. They didn't catch him or beat him.
Against Latinos, our country's very divided. I think the main reason we're divided, by the way, the main reason there's so much angst out there is the lack of economic growth. It always makes a country more tense, more divided. Identity politics, I think, quite frankly, have been part of that as well, and the left has played on that for years, and sometimes this is the bitter harvest of identity politics. So, of course...
Yeah, and as you just stated, the bitter harvest of identity politics. And for the last 18 months, your guy has been fanning the flames of identity politics. Specifically, he has been, I'm not going to say overtly pandering to white supremacists, but he absolutely has been covertly pandering to them. And they receive the message, and everything that they say indicates that they understand that he's one of their guys.
I decry any violence and any ugly words on all sides. I hope and believe that President-elect Trump, when he becomes President Trump, is going to do a lot of healing. And I think a big part of that healing, by the way, is economic growth. If people aren't stressed about paying their bills, if they don't see their insurance premiums skyrocketing any longer, I think there's going to be a lot more cohesion and serenity, frankly, in our society.
Now, that economic piece, I got no argument with Steve on that. If things are good in the house, not thinking about how you're going to pay the rent, put food on the table and pay the bills, there's a lot more calm out there, and that is a proven fact.
Steve Cortez, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Betty.
Okay. So again, I really don't have a dog in this fight. I honestly don't care what happens on this particular subject matter. I'm going to keep an open mind as far as what's going to go down. I'm not into fighting for the LGBT people. I'm not into fighting for the Latinos. I'm not into fighting for the Muslims. I'm not into fighting for the Asians. I'm into fighting for black people because we have gotten a raw deal for way too long. We need to consolidate. We need to come together. And we need to do what we need to do in order to better our individual lives and our lives as a group.